Did you know one of the worst ways to die is to be burned alive? Hi, I'm Holliday, and this is Chloroform and Chillz. Again, I'm on my boneless couch, and today our case is about a young woman named Jessica Chambers. Where does it start? This case is located in Cortland, Mississippi. Cortland is a small town of 500 people, and they're very close knit. Everyone knows everyone. One night on December 6, 2014, a call comes into dispatch of a car that's on fire. This car is engulfed in flames. Firefighters rush to the scene. Seeing that the car is engulfed in flames, they rush to put the flames out. While trying to extinguish them, something unimaginable happens. A woman walks out of the woods and she is burned to no recognition. She's able to reach the firefighters and she collapses in their arms. And they ask her, "Who are you?" Respond, "Jessica." And in that moment, the firefighters know who this is. They know that this is Jessica Chambers. Because again, this is a small town of only 500 people. Firefighters act quick and they ask her, "Who did this to you, Jessica? Who? Who?" And Jessica is able to get out either the name Eric or Derek. That is a point of contention later on in our case. Some firefighters heard her say Eric. Some firefighters heard her say Derek. Jessica's last words is classified as a dying declaration. What's a dying declaration though? Your last words, and if they can tell any professional person like EMS, firefighters, police officer, if you are able in that moment in your time of being close to death, if you are able to say who did it, it counts as a dying declaration. Your last words can actually even be used in a court of law. Once they were able to get maybe a name from Jessica, they flew her immediately to a burn unit. But who is Jessica Chambers? Jessica Chambers is 19 years old. She is the daughter of Ben and Lisa Chambers. Her parents separated when she was younger, but they still stayed close. Jessica's Chambers' father, Ben Chambers, he actually just only moved down the street. So they were very close and very good at co-parenting Jessica. Jessica was known for being very charming, smart, sweet. She was a popular girl at high school. Everybody knew her. Jessica had dreams of becoming a nurse and attending nursing school. But unfortunately, those dreams would never come true. The night of December 6, 2014, Jessica was airlifted to a burn unit. Jessica's parents were notified of an accident that happened. Jessica's mother was in shock because not too long ago, she was just on the phone with Jessica, maybe about an hour before being notified that her daughter was burned. But her mother, Lisa, did say that the phone call that she had with Jessica was a little off. It was a little quiet. It was a little weird. Usually Jessica in her car, she has music playing. Something's always going in the background. She's 19. She's young. She's full of life. Once Lisa and Ben were able to arrive to the hospital to see Jessica one last time, Lisa got close to her daughter and bent down and told Jessica, "It's okay for you to go. We're here." Lisa made a promise to Jessica before she took her last breaths that she would find her justice. Hearing that statement from her mother, Jessica took her last breath. And while Jessica was taking her last breath, oddly enough, her car keys were found an eighth of a mile away from her burning car. That's kind of weird. When investigators obtained these keys as evidence, they immediately shipped them off to the lab so they could be tested for DNA. And they're hoping that this will push the case along in the long run. But let's get down to it. Who the fuck did this to Jessica? Investigators decided to start with Jessica's phone. They were able to obtain a search warrant for the last 24 hours only. They were able to see that Jessica was texting her friend Keisha that morning. Police decided to go and interview Keisha, and Keisha said, "Yeah, I was texting her that morning. We met up. Well, she picked me up and she had a friend with her in the car. And this friend was Quentin Tellis." Next, we all know what happened. Investigators went to go interview Quentin Tellis. Quentin said that he drove around with Jessica and Keisha for about an hour, and then he asked Jessica to drop him off at the gas station, which is called M&M. This gas station, M&M, is actually a popular hangout for anybody in the neighborhood. Everybody has that gas station that they go to either get gas, snacks, or anything. For me, when I was younger, it was the Sunoco. Hearing this information, police decided to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Quentin, so they got a warrant for his phone records, and they were able to obtain the surveillance from M&M gas station. And you know what? Surprisingly, Quentin's alibi, it was matching up right now. From obtaining surveillance from the M&M store, they were also able to see that Jessica came in and out of the store a few times that day. From this information, they started to actually track Jessica. After meeting up with friends, Jessica actually went home to take a nap around like 12:30ish. Around 4:45ish, Jessica received a phone call and that woke her up from her nap. She decided that she was hungry and she wanted to go clean out her car. So she informed her mom of where she was going, what she was doing, and she left out. At this moment, when they match it up, Jessica is caught on the surveillance of the M&M store again. At 6 p.m., investigators then tracked Jessica in a town called Batesville. After being in Batesville, she returns to Cortland in 30 minutes. And they were able to receive all this just from her cell phone records, from her phone pinging off of towers. At 6:45ish, Jessica calls her mother, and this is the phone call that I was speaking about earlier, where her mom thought it was off, it was weird, it didn't feel right, she was quiet. Almost about an hour later, Jessica is found with her car on fire. Police decide to stop here and they decide to look into Jessica's last word. Remember, Jessica was allegedly able to say the name Derek or Eric, so the police decided to investigate every Derek or Eric in the town. I know that sounds crazy that they were able to investigate all the Dereks or Eric, but again, it's a small town of only 500 people. How many could you have? They interviewed all of them and nothing. All their alibis or anything, nothing came up. Investigators felt like they were hitting another dead end, so they decided to go back to Jessica's phone records. Investigators were able to obtain another search warrant that went through Jessica's whole phone and not just the last 24 hours. Right before a 911 call by bystanders, they see that Jessica received a text. She received a text from Quentin. The text went along the lines of, "Can't hang out. Babe, friends coming over, sweet dreams." I thought that Jessica and Quentin were just friends. When did she become your babe? Furthermore, Quentin never told investigators that Jessica and him had plans to meet up later that night. I think it's very important that the girl that you're talking to, you kind of inform the police that y'all are talking, especially when she was murdered. That morning, Quentin only informed investigators that him and Keisha and Jessica hung out. Nothing more of them hanging out later on that night. Honestly, what the fuck is going on? How did you forget to inform police that you were supposed to hang out with a girl that is now dead? So police decide to bring in Quentin for a second interview. And they asked him straight up, "What's the relationship do you have with Jessica?" And this man says that, "Oh yeah, me and Jessica slept together in her car." Kind of funny you would mention that since her car was, I don't know, engulfed in flames, set on fire. At this point, I'm pretty sure investigators are looking at Quentin with squinted eyes. Like, what's really going on? And they're also wondering now, why didn't Quentin mention that him and Jessica had a relationship? Especially since, again, this girl is deceased and you were interviewed. You made it seem like you guys were just friends. Investigators decide to ask Quentin what else happened his day after Jessica dropped him off. And he says that he hung out with friends and then went to his sister's house to borrow her truck to drive to Batesville. If you remember, Jessica was in Batesville right before she was found on fire. Quentin's reason for being in Batesville is because he had to go buy a prepaid Visa card for his girlfriend in Louisiana so she could come up to Mississippi. And again, it's weird. You have a girlfriend and you're calling Jessica Bay? What? Make it make sense. Quentin's story, oddly enough, is adding up. They go to the convenience store that Quentin went to in Batesville. They pull the footage and he's right there on camera. Investigators are about to put a pin into interviewing Quentin, but before they do that, they decide to search Quentin's house. And what they find at Quentin's house in a shed is a bunch of gas cans. And Quentin is able to talk that away because Quentin has a dirt bike that takes gasoline. So okay, but we'll remember those gas cans later. Investigators decided to go and interview other people in Jessica's life, like her exes and other male friends. Her boyfriend at the time was in jail for burglary, but when they went to go talk to him, he was very distraught about hearing that Jessica was murdered. And also any of her other exes, they checked them out and all their alibis actually came through. But there was just something that wasn't adding up. Investigators decided to bring in a specialist that could analyze all of the phone data and GPS data from Jessica's phone and from Keisha's phone, Quentin's phone, anybody that she talked to that day. And what they found out was kind of amazing. So they lined up everybody's GPS data and phone data. Data? Same diff. And they found out that Quentin was with Jessica more than he said he was. Investigators decided to go and talk to Quentin again. And guess what? This is about 8 months later. Quentin is in jail in Louisiana. Can you believe it? In Louisiana, where that girlfriend was. Quentin is in jail for stealing about $2,000 from a woman named Mean Queen Cow, and she is an overseas student that is going to LSU. Quentin is also charged with Mean Queen Cow's murder. Mean Queen Cow was found stabbed to death, stabbed 34 times, and tortured in her apartment. And the day that she was found, Quentin was getting married to this girlfriend of his the same day. So they interviewed Quentin again, and they slapped him with that his GPS data and his phone data is lining up with Jessica's. So what's the real truth of what happened that day? Quentin admits that, yeah, I did see her after I was with her and Keisha in the morning. He says that he went to Taco Bell with Jessica and then a friend picked him up, which ended up being a lie. So they came back to him and said, hey, you're lying. We checked out with your friend. They were at a football game. So what other story you got for us? Quentin just kept lying and lying and lying. But then something amazing happened. The DNA from the keys. Remember I said that somebody found her keys 1/8 of a mile away from her car? It came back with DNA. Who DNA do you think was on the motherfucking keys, y'all? It was Quentin. Tell us. Quentin's DNA was on Jessica's keys. How did Jessica Keys get there? 1/8 of a mile away from her car that's on fire and Quentin's DNA being on him. I suspect that he threw him out of a moving car, or maybe he threw him when he was on his dirt bike, possibly. From his DNA being on Jessica's keys, investigators were able to obtain another search warrant to now check all his text messages. They find something disgusting. They find that Quentin was sexually harassing Jessica via text. He kept sending her aggressive text messages to have sex with her, do any type of sexual acts, and Jessica would decline each time. And even the day that Jessica ended up dying, he asked Jessica to have sex with her several times that day too. My opinion is that he was rejected so many times. I think he started to build up rage towards Jessica. Investigators also find out later that the text messages that they're looking at with their search warrant, they were actually deleted by Quentin. And they actually asked Quentin, why did you delete these? Also, why is Jessica's contact information deleted from your phone? And his reason was, well, I don't want some dead girl's information in my phone. I thought Jessica was your friend. I thought she was your babe, bro. Oh, okay. From this conversation, investigators are over it, so they charge Quentin with murder, if you can't tell. Quentin was charged with capital murder. This happened in like 2014. When it came to trial, there are several trials that happened because both trials ended up being mistrials. When it came to Jessica's case, for some reason, they kept getting a hung jury. They were very much harping on Jessica's dying declaration, her last words, saying that Derek or Eric did it. That doesn't sound like Quentin. That doesn't sound like the name Quentin. So people were very hung up on that, and it caused both juries to be hung. Unfortunately, Jessica's dying declaration gave Quentin's defense basically a good strong arm to really fight that he didn't do it, that somebody named Derek or Eric actually did it. But the prosecution actually brought in a doctor that said that Jessica, at the moment of when she was burned, because 90% of her body was burned, the words that she was pronouncing with her mouth weren't actually audible because her face was burned and no recognition, and her muscles in her face and her tongue and her lips were burned so bad she couldn't say anything. Both trials, they used Quentin's lies and DNA to show that he is our guy, he did it. Fortunately, the evidence just wasn't enough. The prosecution believes that went to Taco Bell with Jessica. They went back to his house. He attempted to sexually assault her. It didn't work, so he decided to strangle her. Thinking that she was dead, he took her... He undressed her body, put her in her car, drove to where her car was then set on fire, ran to his sister's house to borrow her truck. In the process of borrowing his sister's truck, he throws the keys out the window, went to his house to pick up gas cans, went back to where her car is, poured gasoline in her nose and down her throat, then set the car ablaze and left. And for a final touch, he texted Jessica, "Can't hang tonight, bae. Friend coming over. Sweet dreams." In both trials, Quentin's defense team was able to fight that this was all circumstantial evidence. And his defense team just kept bringing up Jessica's last words, saying allegedly Derek or Eric, even though a specialist has, not a specialist, but a doctor has said that she wouldn't have been able to actually pronunciate or say any type of words. In the first trial, the jury was actually confused on how to do their damn job. The first jury from the first trial deliberated for 10 hours. They came back saying they had a verdict. They didn't know that they unanimously had to agree that they all believed he was guilty. In the first trial, they pulled the jury and they found out that some people on the jury believed he was not guilty and some believed he was guilty. Firstly, to me, after all the evidence, how do you not see that Quentin is guilty? From the DNA, from the GPS data, from the phone data, like, how do you not see it? Is it really just because her last words could have said Eric or Derek did it? Since they couldn't come to an agreement, it caused a mistrial. The second trial happened in 2018, and the same result, a hung jury, sole mistrial. Quentin is now awaiting a third trial for the death of Jessica Chambers, and due to COVID, they have to reschedule it again. He's also waiting to go to trial for Mean Queen Kyle's murder as well. And that's where we stand today, even though this case is not technically solved because we don't have a verdict or we don't have a sentencing. Quentin is looking really good for both of these two murders. Okay. I hate to end our case on a sad note. Lisa Chambers, Jessica's mother, ended up dying in 2021. And her sister now has a Facebook group that's called Justice for Jessica. And she is fighting for justice for Jessica every day, hoping that they get a guilty verdict when the trial for Jessica starts again. So that is our case. I think it's crazy that Jessica was burned alive. Could you imagine being in that situation? I mean, could you imagine burning alive? I couldn't even imagine. I burned my hand on the stove one time and it was crazy. It was painful. And then like Quentin Tellis, just like, oh, this nasty fucking man. Wow. They always say the person that kills you is always somebody that is the closest to you or close to you or know you. That is our case. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.